Good evening. Our show covers sensitive material, so viewer discretion is advised. Welcome to the H2G Podcast.
Hello, everybody. We are doing my episode today. This is going to be about COVID-19, any sort of variants, but honestly, it's just COVID-19. I kept it very loose for the guys. Normally, we're trying to focus on like specifics, but I want to go over a couple things because realistically, I want to talk about the fear mongering of COVID-19. I apologize if you're hearing that rumble. I live in the ghetto. Somebody's having some fun with the car. So there we are. But before we get into COVID, let's talk about how our week's been. I want to start it off with Tony Ray. Tony looks very professional today. So I'm very curious as to what's been going on with the man. I saw the pumpkin patch photo, so I know we got something to hear about. So. Oh yeah. You know, it's that day where we all get together and just those sporting some Steelers attire, you know. So I see everybody doing what they're doing. Pumpkin patch, yeah, the family got together. We collected some pumpkins and we painted them. And my wife painted a Harry Potter pumpkin, Marvin. I can feel the eye roll as soon as I said Harry Potter, but it's okay, my friend, because I know that you are going to let loose and actually start watching some of those movies. You told me already, so, you know, hopefully that sways you a different way. But anyway, I painted a skull and a witch and a devil with angel wings, but my wife said it looks like a baby. A cracked out baby with red paint. So she's the artist. I'm not the artist. The kids, they just threw some shit up on the pumpkin and there, voila, right? They're not Picasso or anything like that, but they're working on it. And whoever knows, art is abstract, right? So it could be, you know, something to somebody else, you know. So, but yeah, it's been a great week. I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to talk about this COVID and getting ready to answer whatever questions get thrown at me. So I'm ready. Cool, man. Glad to hear it. All right. Well, Marvin, we going next to you because I know somebody was very excited about a certain Halloween movie. And I'm curious, my man, did you watch Halloween? Did you?
I did. I went and saw it this past Friday when it premiered. And needless to say, long story short, fellas, I was disappointed. I was very disappointed, not only because it's not what I thought it would be, but because people just seem to not be able to shut up during a movie. You know, so much that they had to get 3 security guards, to come in during the quarter length into the film and tell guys to shut up because they were talking over the lines. Fellas, it wasn't I didn't think it was that good. It's an incomplete story though. You know, we'll see what happens when the next one comes out on H2G. Hopefully I'm in a better mood. But Tony, I'm sorry to disappoint you, man. Richie, Justin, it was felt like a comedy. But anyhow, the week was good. I shot the commercial, fellas. The commercial went well. I shot that this past Monday. So that's looking up there. That's going to broadcast. I don't know when, but I'll let you fellas know. But it's good to see you fellas. You know, I'm going to stop for a second because and smell the roses. You could be going through your own stuff. And that's exactly what I was going through before I got on the show today. But seeing you guys and you guys smile just makes me smile. You know, you guys are great friends of mine. This is a safe place. And that just makes me forget about all my shit. And I'm just really in the present. Tony, great to see you. Rich, it's great to see you. Justin, looking forward to today's show talking about COVID and awareness.
Word. Justin, give me 1 second because we a live show, people. I need something. I'll be right back.
Oh, man. Oh,
wow. So, Marvin, I got to ask you really quick. Was it the people that ruined the movie or was it the movie itself? And if it was the movie itself, which one would you rather go see? That movie or Halloween 20?
I'd rather go see Halloween 20.
Holy smokes!
I would have got a cook out of LL Cool J because he actually survived in the movie. One of the few brothers.
The few brothers that ever survived in a horror movie.
One of the few brothers in the Halloween franchise that survived. I don't know what Michael Myers' things is with black folks when he killed them, but that's a different story for another day. But Tony, you should go see it. I'm not going to spoil anything. I mean, you can wait till it's on Peacock or something. You can stream it.
It's on Peacock now, right?
It's on Peacock. It's on Peacock.
Right. So don't go to the movie theater to go see it.
Don't go to see. We'll probably talk about this on another episode. But y'all out there, fellas, do not go to the movies at night, especially to go see a horror film, because people will ruin it for you. It doesn't matter if it's black or white. You just have a bad habit of showing up to. I think that's how people deal with their fears. I don't know.
I think horror in particular, Marvin, to clarify, I don't always experience these. I experience them in two types of films: horror and like Marvel films.
Comics and Marvel. Yeah,
for me, Marvel. Like I watched the Wolverine. And I already told this story about that Ninja Wolverine because I cannot say the other word, but I'll never forget it. And it's something we always say because it just ruined the experience of, honestly, Hugh Jackman's best film as Wolverine. So it was really disappointing, but I totally understand what you're saying, Marvin. And already, you have a movie you weren't thrilled with, and then you add in, and more importantly, like distractions that like really sour your mood. And then I'm hearing it could be good once we see the other half, because clearly this is a 2-part movie. So I always hate those 2-parters because then you're left hanging if the first one wasn't good enough on its own. Then maybe it will be once I see the whole thing. But that's disappointing to hear, Marv. We all love Michael Myers. He's the true villain, the greatest killer in
Huge
film.
fan of the franchise.
Look at Justin. He's getting so salty. That's why I love saying it. I was just watching him shake
I'm sorry, man. I mean, I hope you didn't watch all the trailers.
You even said, Marvin, at least Michael Myers is racist. Jason Voorhees strictly killed white privilege for like 10 years.
Get out of here. Okay, first of all,
he punched him with his head off.
First of all, Michael Myers has the greatest theme song of all time. He is the true villain. That is a banger, dude. That is a banger, all right? Dr. Dre made a fucking rap song over the beat. Get out of here. You ain't need no Jason Voorhees. It's never been there, all right? Nobody cares. The only thing that's cool about Jason is his mask. It's cooler than Michael Myers. But Michael Myers is cooler.
Exactly.
I don't know if it's cooler. They're both cool. They both have really twisted anyway, whatever. This is for another story. Justin, we got to get to COVID, okay? And I needed, sponsored by Izzy for me. They don't actually pay me, but I needed this drink because I've been having a day. But Justin, how was your week, man?
Last night was pretty rough for me. Just like full disclosure, and then I'll give them the best part of my week. But like you ever like make a judgment and then wish you just wouldn't have, due to my failure to transfer over, some extra gas money before the bank closed, thinking that things were going to fall into place. I had the embarrassing occasion of running out of gas on the highway in Dallas at like 1:30 in the morning last night. So finally got home at about 4 in the morning after finagling everything and getting everything figured out. So that was tough. But the best part of my week, actually, also a side note, it is just a reaction to fear, Marvin. In the haunted house industry, we see it all the time. People pay all this money to come through a haunted house just to scream and talk smack to all the actors. So it's in the back of my mind, I'm laughing because I'm like, oh, we got your money. So whatever. Best part of my week, my girlfriend is coming to Dallas next weekend. And so we have been planning all of the fall things as it's my favorite holiday. And I've been relationshipless for so many of them because I was choosing to stay away from them. However, I get to do all the fun relationship things now. So half of it's surprises, so I can't really say. I'll just say that there's a movie on Peacock that I want to see that we may or may not have talked about that I can't see until that weekend's over. And there's a really cool thing in Dallas called Pumpkin Nights that we're going to go check out, which is kind of like a fall festival. They've got over 3,000 lit up pumpkins and different displays and things, and should be a lot of cool picture moments and stuff like that. So it's just been kind of fun planning out a weekend with my girl.
Cool, man. I had a great week myself. Best part of my week was actually that we hosted our friends over, kind of like a housewarming party, and it went really well. My girl made this amazing like pasta carbonara. It was fantastic. We had some really good food, played some Russian games, and played different music. It was like rotating DJ. So I got to experience, as I've already heard many of them, like a lot of Russian songs. So it was a great time. Have my juice, having a good time. It's been a good week, man. The only other thing I will say of note, for those of you who love killers and those types of things, is You. Season 3 came out on Netflix on October 15th. So if you haven't seen that and you're into crazy psychopaths who murder people, this might be your show. So having said that, let's get underway. We've been talking about a lot of horror, but you know what? This just lines right up. We're talking about COVID-19, the true horror story. So I want to go over a couple things, guys. This, again, I didn't really put any bulletins. I don't want to give you guys research. I just wanted more like reactions, just thought processes. This isn't statistics. This is just concepts. So the first one's a real simple one, real easy. All right. Because whether you believe in the vaccine or not, and I believe my panel all here are very pro-vaccine, the National Zoo is administering COVID shots to their animals now. Animals. So just so you know, the CDC have not cleared that animals need COVID vaccines or whether or not there is an effectiveness in them. But nonetheless, now we have vaccines in animals. I don't want to answer this as is this good or bad? But my question to you is really simple. Do you think vaccinating the animals at zoos is actually relevant to protecting them and people? Or from my perspective, I'm kind of doing a leading question. Maybe these zoos shouldn't just be open if it's actually endangering the animal. Just thought process. So, you know what? We'll start with Justin. Justin, what do you think, man? Do you think zoos, if in fact, because again, we don't have data to really truly say this, but if these animals are in danger of getting COVID, which we know primates, cats, and dogs are all capable of it, that's happened, and there's been cases, why are the zoos even open then, right? Like what? I don't understand giving them vaccines. That's just crazy to me. It's just like, all right, we'll vaccinate you and you could still die because you're like, unlike us, we choose to avoid exposure. These animals have no choice. And they're just like, let's just give them a vaccine. You know, I don't understand it personally. So maybe you can speak on how you feel, if you feel the same as me or what's going on with that. What do you think about animals getting vaccinated?
Specifically about the animals. Yeah. I mean, when I get into my general point on COVID later, it'll be pretty apparent, but I personally believe, what's the point of opening the zoo? I mean, their entire existence, animals in the zoo, is to be exposed to humankind. And as we have seen since the reopening, or the attempted reopening, people are becoming more and more careless. I've got lots of numbers later, but you have roughly still 40-something% of the country that's unvaccinated and unmasked and not giving a damn. And so, you know, these are the people that are going to go and be careless at the zoo, regardless of what systems you put in place at the zoo. They're still not going to respect distance. They're still not going to wear a mask. They're going to be unvaccinated. They're going to be there with their snot-nosed kids rubbing snot all over the place. I mean, the animals are in danger specifically in this scenario because they don't have a choice. I think there's like a whole nother discussion that could be had about animals bred and left and raised in captivity. Of course, there's been, you know, huge uncoverings like SeaWorld and all of that. And not all zoos are treating these animals poorly. Don't misquote me there. But I think to let the zoo be open and to like test trying to vaccinate some of these animals and go through that whole thing, I think that's irresponsible. I think it will definitely have a major backlash if we start seeing species die because of it in the zoos. Like, you know, we know that this vaccine works on us, and they had to do like an emergency, they had to do emergency order to get that even passed. So like to just start trying it on all these different animals so that they can have yet another public function where people can be around each other unprotected. Seems like a cluster F to me, Richie. Back to
Yes,
you.
thank you. A little bizarre. So Tony, I'm going to kind of change the question for you. Because
Oh, good, because I wrote down what I wanted to say.
well, I saw him brewing and, doing his thing. But, this is exactly why I didn't want to give you guys. I want it to just be more fun. It's not stressful at all. Tony, you got children, obviously. Quite frankly, a little baby. Mm-hmm. You also have an elderly dog. So here's my take. Now we're hearing these animals are getting vaccinated in the zoo. If his dog's name is Zoe. If Zoe's capable of getting a vaccination, would you vaccinate your dog?
If Zoe was capable, yes. And here's why. Is because when Zoe's a friendly dog. Okay, so Zoe goes outside out back, and the kids next door will go up and touch Zoe and pet Zoe. Well, I don't know where these kids have been. Okay, I don't know what they could be bringing over to Zoe, number one. And then Zoe could be bringing that back to us. Now, I'm not so much worried about myself, but I am worried about what it could do to, my children. Reese, who has a respiratory issue, he was born with a respiratory issue, so have to be a little bit more cautious when it comes to what we can do. And everyone should be more cautious. It's not just about someone with respiratory issues. Everyone needs to be a little bit more respectful, because we don't know what other people could be going through, could be fighting, what type of lifestyle, what kind of body shape they're in on the inside. You really don't know. But to answer your question, so that way I don't go off on a soapbox, is, yeah, I would. And to answer the other question that I wrote down for Justin, they want, the number that you put out there was 40%, right? So, hey, let's get these animals vaccinated, so then that way that people who are naive or overthinking stuff, they might go, well, I guess it's not about chips or about controlling and all this other stuff. They're putting it in animals. So I guess, maybe we should do it. I don't know. I mean, listen, they're coming up with all kinds of ways to get people to take this vaccination. That was a little bit of a stretch on my part. I'm just trying to make people laugh, but you never know, right? So you had the lottery, the lottery for COVID. You had it for school, paying for people's colleges. So they want you to get this vaccination. It's, to me personally, I haven't done the study. I don't know what it all entails. I don't think it's a get you moment. I think it's more of a, hey, we need to be alert and aware that we could be spreading something that could potentially harm others. And that's what the vaccination's all about, in my opinion.
Well, as the official anti-vaxxer of the conversation, Tony, those animals are there regardless. It doesn't matter if they're tracked, because they can't move anywhere. All right, Marvin, I'm actually going to change the question for you. We're getting away from animals. There's really no need to talk about them for 3 times, even though we all love animals on this panel. It's very obvious. What I want to talk to you about is an interesting stat I found, Police have died 5 times more to COVID-19 than gunfire since the pandemic started. And to be very specific on that number, it is according to the ODMP, which is the Officers Down Memorial page, which records, how police are down and memorials for them. 245 police officers. And another alarming thing to me about this is that they were the first group of people that could get vaccinated. So I find this a little bizarre. And I know Marvin's very pro-vaccine, which is why I wanted to let Marvin kind of lean into this. Marvin, hearing something like that, hearing that not just us as a whole, because again, we discussed this, how many 90,000 people have died of COVID since August in the United States alone, 90,000. And now you're hearing that police are dying to COVID 5 times more than they're being shot. Because that's what we always think of when we think of the police, is how dangerous their job is, that the gunfire and they're being gunned down. Well, they are dying to this, 5 times more likely. So Marvin, just reaction to that 5 times more than when they're killed by gunfire. What's your take?
That's a little shocking. to be honest, I mean, like, that is a very alarming number. I mean, to know that many cops, that many like law enforcement agencies are allowing their cops to be on the front lines, either being vaccinated or not wearing a mask. And that's the only thing I can come up with. I mean, like you said, I mean, like, if their job is, all day and all night, I mean, what are they doing to protect themselves? That seems like a very alarming number, because, I mean, like I said before, you don't see people you don't see black folks going around shooting cops. So I know that number is not from us on the other end. So that's just to be completely honest. But just to see that number from COVID is just that high, you wonder what the solution is going to be, within law enforcement agencies. I mean, like, what are you doing to protect your cops? And like, are these cops taking a stance against the vaccine? Like, that's my question. Like, are they taking a stance? Like, I mean, because we do know, based off early January's events, a lot of cops took a lot of stances. And, we know that there was a lot of pushback when there was a rollout of the vaccines, even when the vaccines were proven. Clinical trials so many clinical trials were proven that it's not, that it is, people can take this vaccine. You wonder if they're taking a stance against that. And it's really, it's really alarming. Yeah. Wow.
Well, Marv, you actually beat me to the punch on something I was going to talk about, but we're going to talk about it now. We're talking about what he just said, the police, and that you would think that they would require some sort of vaccination since they're front of the line here, but they don't. Now, Texas has actually mandated essentially that a company cannot require vaccination. And that's led to a lot of ups and downs here. You've got Southwest Airlines, American Airlines, who are founded and headquartered within the state of Texas. And you have the federal government saying, well, you need to be vaccinated. And then you have your state local legislation superseding that, saying you can't force them and these people have the opportunity. Well, the airlines, just to clarify to all of you, as of now, are still requiring the vaccination and have fired people over this. Pilots are suing based on the state law of Texas. So we're at an impasse. And I wanted to mention this now because Marvin kind of brought it up a little quicker than I planned. But that's the beauty of this, is we're just talking free fall. So I'm just going to shoot back to Marvin, because you know what? We're going to go in reverse order here. Marvin, I just want, your stance on, do you believe a government should require a private company to require a mandate on vaccinations? Like, currently, it still hasn't been passed yet. OSHA and President Biden want any company who has over 100 employees to either be vaccinated or take a weekly COVID test. So, are you in favor of requiring people to get vaccinated if they're in a private company? Because a federal, they have to, but private, would they have to? So are you in favor of that? Why or why not? There's no wrong or right answer. Just curious.
I'm going to go with my gut here. I'm in favor of it. And I'm only saying that because I have put thought into that, actually. Because whether it's, because it's a private company, and whether you have 100 employees working for this private company or not, you're still responsible for the person or groups of people that you're working with on a daily basis. Like, you are at a civil duty if you're coming to work every day to protect yourself. So to optimize protecting yourself, that would mean taking the vaccine. So I think that is a fair mandate, because even if you don't get the vaccine, you can get tested weekly, That's how I feel. What's the problem with that? I've even felt if they were going to go that far, you could just temperature, you should just do temp checks when people enter the building. You could do that, and just have people wear a mask. But at the same time, you want to optimize all the, the ways you can protect, everyone working within this private company, no matter how many employees it is, 50 to 100, or even 25. The people sitting at the top have an obligation to, make sure that you're protecting they're trying to get their bottom line. So you need people to help you get there. So you can't have like 10, 15 people sick and out because they refuse to get the vaccine. So I think it's fair. And I think that, what's the worst that can happen? If people get a weekly, test, you just don't have them come to work. But I still think that everyone across the board should get vaccinated, private company.
Okay, Marvin, very fair point. One thing I would like to say, not in pro or con, is that Amazon had been doing weekly checks way before this, to be honest. And some Amazon workers got very frustrated. And the reason being is they had to take their temp checks and things like that, and they had to wait in this giant line because, again, you need to socially distance and take the time to make sure the temperatures are correct, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they weren't being paid while they're standing to do that. And then they'd be late to work and then getting, chastised for being late to work. So that's more likely poor implementation by Amazon. Let me clarify when I make this statement. But I think that's what makes this challenging in the logistics of certain corporations, right? When you start reaching like factory level type work where there's thousands of workers, it gets incredibly hard if they're bottlenecked like that. Now, obviously, what I'll say to Marvin's point is getting the vaccination eliminates that, quite frankly, because then you're not running into temperature checks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. However, I'm of the firm belief from my perspective, and I'm going to give you a personal story, and we're going to have to cut to break and we'll get back to it, that even if you have a vaccination, that there should still be temp checks, there should still be COVID tests. Because let me clarify this to the people out there. You can still get COVID when you're vaccinated. It's absolutely a possibility. And, the NFL, they've been having a lot of anti-vax type situations from somebody like Cole Beasley. And a lot of people have been making fun of him. But a lot of the points he made, I actually agreed with, which is if he is positive for COVID or is associated around someone for COVID, he has to socially distance for 2 weeks. If somebody who's vaccinated finds out that they were around somebody who's COVID, and then they both test and both of them are negative, well, the vaccinated player gets to come back 24 hours later. And Cole Beasley, even if he did test negative, would still have to wait 2 weeks. And those are the things that are a little bizarre to me, because I think the government's doing one problem from my perspective. And from a lot of people, they're going to disagree. I think they're not being stringent enough. If you're gonna have a mandate and it's going to be a vaccination, whether or not you're vaccinated, you should still be treating it as the same type of danger, because somebody who's vaccinated can still get COVID. So it doesn't make sense. And here's a personal story. My company, I will not name because I don't want to get in trouble, but my company, my girlfriend's daughter got removed from school on Thursday. It's because she was coughing and said her head hurt. So they were afraid it was COVID. So she went to go get a test. Obviously, my girlfriend went and got a test, and I went and got tested. Well, since I have a vaccine, I am able to still work, but put a mask on and stay away from people, which makes no sense, because if I wasn't and I was unvaccinated, I would not be allowed to return until my test, and then I would have to wait 72 hours after that. I don't understand why it's so lax having a vaccine, because let me clarify, I believe people should get vaccinated, but this is exactly why I think some people who are unvaccinated don't drink the Kool-Aid, things of that nature, because what they see is like these different levels of standards. A vaccinated person can still get COVID, and yet the policies and the stringency, once you have a vaccination, being able to work, dramatically drop. Even though if you have COVID, you still have the same problems as anybody else, and you can still give it to people, vaccinated or not. So I think the only problem I have with personal vaccination mandates with work is that they're too loose with people with the vaccine. And the reason they're doing it, and I understand the concept, it's to encourage people to get the vaccine. It's to encourage the idea that if I do this, I don't have to deal with all that ridiculousness later. I don't have to deal with the worry of me not being able to pay, put food on the table if somebody around me gets, COVID. I can still work once I've proven I'm negative, whereas somebody who's unvaccinated does not have that luxury. So I understand it's to try to force people to jump through hoops so they don't want to jump through them, so they get the vaccine, but I don't agree with it personally. So we're a little short on time. We're going to go to a little break. Make sure if you haven't, comment, subscribe, like on all of our channels, our YouTube, our Facebook, Spotify, Apple. You guys know the drill. You've seen it before. This isn't the first time you've been on H2G. Thanks for watching, guys, and stay tuned.
I'm going in, it's first and 10. I'm a legend boy, a champion. They can't match the flows, the X's and O's. I'm breaking the code, devastation about to unfold. They calling me Derek by the way I roll. Bet you never ever seen a pro this cold. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I mix with Iron Mike and the great Ali. I'ma run it back, believe me, baby. I fathered the game, call me Daddy Brady. I'm like that, try be like this. Sammy, so that boy don't miss. It's the return of the greatest. Any way you name it, I'm everybody's favorite. I'm bringing the pain and bringing the fire. Hey, stay tuned, it's going down to the wire.
Welcome back, people. We were back on. Wow. Let me rewind. I almost said the wire, motherfucker. Rewind. Welcome back, people. We are back with the H2G Podcast, and the Chicago Police Union head, John Catanzara, said he is fighting the mandate for police. So even though what I just said and what Marvin just said, the police union chief of the Chicago Police is saying, we will not vaccinate. And this is exactly how you get rid of dirty cops. No, I'm just kidding. That's mean to say that. I apologize, everyone. I don't mean it. Justin, please, why don't you give us your take? And to clarify to the audience, we're referring to, again, mandates being required by businesses, whether they're private, honestly, or public or federal, whatever you want to get into. Should mandates be required? Why or why not? Anything loose on vaccines overall and COVID? Justin, give me some stats. I know you've been ready to talk about this.
Just hang on to me. I will wind up at the mandate. You know, I've got some things to throw out there first. Of course, I do want to make sure that we hit our works cited, mostly coming from the CDC. And to those of you that think that's an incredible source, I've been hearing that. I don't know what to tell you. Fuck off. Mostly coming from the CDC, and we also have MayoClinic.org. Okay, so I've got these numbers. Correct me, fellas, if you've seen something different. But as of October 15th, which is the last day they had a record posted on the CDC website, there was 44,801,768 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the United States since the onset. Now, of those, there's been 722,212 deaths caused by the virus. These numbers alone, in my opinion, should eliminate the need for me to explain that the pandemic is real. However, based on everything that we've seen in social media and the actual media, guys like this cop that Richie's talking about, that's not the case. Regardless of the ever-looming presence of COVID-19, there are still hundreds of thousands of people openly resisting any of the solutions that have been offered. And I really don't understand these people. And that's kind of where my take comes from. And if you feel targeted, yeah, I'm talking to you. I don't get you. You didn't want to stay home and play it safe while the CDC took their time to come up with a solution. You didn't/don't want to wear masks to help limit the spread of wet germs, and in doing so, help hinder the mass spread of the virus. You didn't want to keep a respectful distance when you were out in public, irresponsibly maskless. And on top of it all, you want nothing to do with taking a vaccine to protect yourself and others from the fatal effects of the virus. This is a step that could literally manage this virus and eventually end it as a pandemic. Now, I'm sure that there are more numbers to be said out there related to the variants and all that, but I just wanted to put something into perspective for the anti-vaxxer, anti-maskers that believe that like we're out of the woods because things are open again. We have previously heard and discussed on the show the comparison of COVID-19 to the 1918 outbreak of influenza. And a lot of people were using that as like a side-by-side We did talk, I think when we talked about it before, we said like a lot's changed. They didn't shut down, they didn't mask, that type of thing. But influenza, since its onset, has 4 total variants. Each of those variants have a host of what's called subtypes. And I'm not going to go into all that, but just for an example, influenza A, which is a very common flu virus to get, has 29 total subtypes. So COVID-19 has just started to mutate, is what I'm getting at. The Delta variant has already proven to be more deadly than the original strain. So to me, it needs to be taken more seriously. So on to the vaccine. I do have numbers for the vaccine. As of this week, the USA is roughly 57.1% fully vaccinated, and 66% of the country it's like 66.7% have at least 1 dose. So that's kind of where I was coming up with that 40. It's around 43% are unvaccinated. So that breaks down to 141,470,000 people who are not vaccinated and 111,860,000 people who haven't even had 1 dose. It's your body. It's your right to choose. But you need to understand, this is where the mandate comes in, that the mandates aren't taking away your rightful ability to make the choice. It's stating, like, as far as I've seen, and I think there are different state to state, but I know the federal mandate and a lot of the state ones are, if you're staffed with more than 100 employees or a branch of the federal government or military, you have to either get vaccinated or, like Marvin said, get the weekly testing. But this isn't taking away your right to choose. It's simply adding more positive and negative value for you to consider when making your choice. You're not going to be shot or sent off to jail if you don't get vaccinated. However, you might not be able to make a living. You still get to choose. It's a choice. They're just making the choice harder for you, I guess. If you're the person that doesn't want to get vaccinated, this choice now has higher stakes. Do you decide to believe in the fairy tale conspiracy of like microchips and bullshit as you tweet about it from your smartphone? Or do you choose to be responsible and protect yourself and your close friends and family, keep your job, all those things? You know, I can't force anyone to choose. All I can do is hope that you do some research, look into the different vaccines. You won't be as scared as you think you are. I mean, I got vaccinated with the Pfizer, and I did research into all 3. Howard Johnson, the one that's had the 2 blood clot deaths that have been, if you see the fake news, by the way, I had to have a whole fact checking war with somebody on Facebook. There's 2 deaths due to blood clots. They were the Johnson & Johnson variety. Just do your research. It's all out there. It's all available, readily available. You can look up everything you need to on all the vaccines and see exactly what people are experiencing. The FDA has approved the Pfizer and I think Moderna at this point. The CDC has as well. So like it's not as scary as you think. Your whole world's not coming to an end because someone's telling you need to do something. And we're not out of the woods once you get vaccinated. It's Richie's point. So I'm going to leave it there. Sorry, that was a little long-winded, but.
Okay. Thank you, brother. All right. You know what, Tony? He just gave a whole bunch of stats. I don't expect you to have to replicate anything like that, but what's your take, man? Same thing. What do you believe in these mandates? Because after this, I have one final question for the group.
Yeah. It's just funny that we have been doing this show for a little bit over a year and a couple of months, right? So April of 2020 is when we started the show back up. Ladies and gentlemen, if you didn't know, now you know. You can always look that information up and follow us. And we're still talking about things that are relevant, and that's the good thing. Nothing's changed here, okay? With me, with my point of view, it looks like nothing's changed with anybody else, but this is what has changed. This is serious. And it's mutated now, and it's more deadly than it was before. Okay. So as of August, according to the CDC, to replicate some of the numbers, the Delta variant is 6.1 times greater risk of testing positive for COVID-19 and 11.3 times greater risk of dying from COVID-19. Now, to reiterate what Richie said, just because you have the vaccination does not mean that you are clear, that you're good, that everything's fine. You can still get COVID, number one. And number two, you can still spread COVID, okay? So we have to be more diligent. We have to make sure that we're doing the things that we need to do. Now, on that point, I agree 100% with Marvin that, you know, no matter what, private, public, federal, state, whatever it is, we need to hold people accountable for their actions, stating that you just need to make sure that you're getting the vaccination. I understand rights. I understand you believe that, oh, this isn't the democracy country that you know, we love dearly. This isn't the United States. I don't live in a third world country where there's a dictator that tells me this is the way it must be done. I understand that. I understand your frustration, but this is different. This is serious. People are dying. Unvaccinated people are dying. Vaccinated people are dying, okay? I know people die all the time. I'm not trying to beat a dead horse multiple times. I'm just trying to tell you that according to sources, the CDC, according to, you know, multiple other things that are out there, we need to do our jobs by being citizens and making sure that other citizens are taken care of by taking care of ourselves. That's all it is. I'm not asking you to go down the street, knock on some doors and say, you got to get vaccinated. No, this isn't the Christian crusade. Okay. Yes, I went there. Okay. This is more of do what you need to do for you and your family. And hopefully everyone will follow point and take suit and do what's best, because I'm telling you this right now. 2020 had opened my eyes to things that I never thought I would see. I'm just going to be honest with you. Okay. I thought we were in a completely different state, but that was me being ignorant. That was me being naive. Okay. We are not strong as I thought we were. And it's okay, because we live and learn. But when you live and learn, you must take action. You must be smart, because as the motto is, history always repeats itself. Will we learn from our mistakes a year ago? Sure, I think we can. We just have to be more proficient, and we have to act fast. And that's all I have to say about it.
Well, thank you very much, man. Appreciate it. So, Tony mentioned something. I'm going to have to deviate from my question, and then we'll get to my question, because, you know, you guys just keep giving me gold. All right. So one of the things that we hear a lot, and again, I always talk about trying to be respectful, and respectfully, people always say, it's my body. It should be my choice. And Tony was mentioning about, you know, it's more akin to a third world country. Well, last time I checked in the United States, you actually already went through a lot of vaccines, whether you wanted to do it or not. Your mother made you do it because you had to do it or you couldn't go to school. So it's not like this is some dictator bullshit that you keep talking about, right? I don't understand this notion. There's so many things: measles, mumps, chicken pox. Honestly, a lot of people get the HPV vaccine, quite frankly, between 11 to 12. So you've already done vaccinations, and it's just like, and polio, forgot polio, sorry. You've already done vaccinations, you know, whether you wanted to or not. The bottom line is your parent decided that they wanted you to live. So why are you so resistant to this? We actually talked about this on The Wire, so I don't want to get into it too much, but we did talk about this on The Wire, ironically. And we'll get into some of the statistics that I mentioned on The Wire here in a second. But the bottom line is just whether or not you think you have that privilege to your own body, there's a lot of things you don't think about that you don't have control over anymore. And there's this, you know, smoking ban happened about 20 plus years ago where you can't smoke indoors. You didn't see all the smoke. Yeah, sure, they were mad, but what did they do? They went outside and they smoked and they called it a day, right? Like it's not really any different. And quite frankly, here's my take on the people who say they don't want to get the vaccine. Okay, if you don't want to get the vaccine, that's one thing, because you're saying it's your body. Well, then why are you so resistant to wearing a mask, right? Because if you're worried about the vaccine impacting your health, you should cognitively accept the fact, like you're saying, that could impact you. Well, then wear a mask and at least try to help people out. But a lot of the vaccinators are also anti-mask. It's not always the case, but that tends to happen a lot. So Tony
it's because they're selfish.
Well, they are selfish.
It's because they're selfish and they have this lion mentality versus lamb mentality. And it's misled, it's misquoted, it's misunderstood. I agree with everything that you said, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but that's what it comes down to, is people only care about themselves. Not everybody. And we're just talking about in general, these certain people, and maybe not even all these people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just how I feel based off of the conversation that we're having right now. People are, and it's not even that they're scared, it's that they just don't like to be told what they can and cannot do. And they want to stand for something that might damage somebody else, it might hurt someone else, but damn it, at least I stood my ground. But Richie made a great point about smoking. You just dealt with it, right? I got shots that I didn't even want to get, right? I have 2 kids. The doctor's like, oh, it's time for their 17th shot. Damn, 17th? What? Okay, you suggest? The doctor says, yeah, okay, what shot is it? I don't even know. Is that my fault? Is that my ignorance? I guess you could fight that, right? But I'm going off of somebody that knows more, someone that went to school for this specifically, that should be doing the best for their patients, right? So, all right, I'm off the soapbox.
And well,
slide on that soapbox. Really,
slide on the soapbox. Go.
Yeah, I mean, Tony is absolutely right when he says they don't want to do something that they're being told to do, unless it's tagged on to something that they really want. Okay, like people that want a military career. Did you get to openly, like, I love the military. I've got family in the military, friends in the military. I respect everything that you do, but there is a huge thing going on with military generals and all these people leaving before their pension because they're being forced to mandate. Did you have a choice in boot camp when they shot you up with 15 different types of shit? Did you get to look at them and say, hey, what's in that you're putting in my arm, while they're shaving your head and sending you off to boot camp? No, you didn't have a choice, but you wanted that, right? You wanted it then. Now, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's what we just discussed, It's always fine when it's the path you chose, but when you feel like you don't have the choice is the resistance. And that's going to lead me to my next point. I hate to do it because I already talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about mutation and then the point, which is the next question. It'll be our final question, and it's a big one. It's a hefty one, but you know what? I got my brothers on here, and that's exactly why I need them specifically for this. So there's been a lot of variants in COVID, multiple ones. MU was the new big thing, and it was in June. And so I think this is where a lot of resistant vaccinators are. I don't want to say anti-vaccinators, but resistant vaccinators are. Is every other week you hear about a new strand of this, that. And MU was even stronger than Delta, which we've already given the statistics about how incredibly dangerous Delta has been and currently still is. Delta is by far the most dangerous thing currently right now. And MU was supposed to be, or Mu, I don't know, they say Mu, but some people say Mu. But anyways, we'll go with Mu. Mu was supposed to be worse. It was supposed to be able to go through the vaccine significantly easier, which was even making it more deadly. Well, it disappeared from the face of the earth. It's like 2% likelihood in actual rate. But here's the thing about when something disappears, people. If it disappears, it's because it's mutating again, right? It didn't just go away. It's mutating into something else, which could be more dangerous. Now, it might be less dangerous, but that's the point. And that's why it's important. And originally I was going to have questions about variants, but I actually avoided this because it's not worth talking about other than knowledge. And the knowledge is this. It's that when something mutates, again, it's a change in what it was. So it's not always going to be more deadly. I think that's where it's the misconception, and that's where the news try to push you. It's deadlier. It's not always more deadly. But the fact that Mu is gone, well, it's not gone, but it's disappearing means it's changing. It is mutating again. And this could make it far more deadly, or it could be, less deadly. But the point is this, is that COVID's not going anywhere. Delta is very large, and smaller variants are changing and mutating. Some are significantly more dangerous, like Mu was and currently is, although it's at a very small rate, 2%, compared to the 98% of Delta. It's dangerous. And this is going to lead to what I was going to discuss. I think what's the reality that needs to be talked about, and that's why I'm glad we're on H2G instead of The Wire, is that race in the United States, vaccinations in the United States. Minorities are the biggest unvaccinated group. And when I say minorities, I'm talking about all of us people. I'm not talking about one, because I think that's the common misconception. When we say minority, a lot of the time people are avoiding it, but in their brain are going African American or Black when they say minority. It's too often that's what's used, and it's very frustrating. I think if you want to be liberal and you're trying to be PC, you don't say minority. You say who you're referring to, right? There's no reason to try to sugarcoat, because that's exactly like the microaggressions that lead to racism in the first place. You don't want to say Black, so you'll say minority. Well, when I say minority, I'm talking about minorities in the United States, all of them. I have some percentages and some statistics. So, as per October 4th, via Kaiser Foundation, not CDC, but Kaiser, who's doing the research, and they're a great person to be doing the research because they're doing a lot of the vaccinations. In 43 states, that's not all the states, I could get into this specifically, but 54% of white people are vaccinated, according to Kaiser Foundation. For Black people, it's currently 46, Hispanic is 51, and Asian is 71. So Asians are getting vaccinated. And to be fair, about a month ago, that 71 was actually 58. So it's jumped dramatically in the last 2 months. Now, here's my thing before I get into the questions. And so we'll probably have some very strong opinions here. A lot of the distrust for minorities is why this happens. That's my personal stance, okay? Like, we as a collective are always resistant to trusting the federal government, because why should we? When have they ever had our backs? That's what this whole concept of white privilege is. It's the notion that that we are always disadvantaged and we do not get the same benefits as others. So it's hard for any minority, Hispanics, Blacks, Asians, to be able to trust that the government has our best interests, because a lot of times they do not. And a lot of what's happening with these unvaccinations are actually poverty related, not necessarily minority related. Let's clarify. Now, they go hand in hand in a lot of cases because of what's been happening in the country over the last 100 years, particularly in the South. But I think what's pretty alarming and where things need to change is we need to get more people vaccinated. And quite frankly, we need to have everyone vaccinated. Now, what I do like is these numbers, when I last read them on The Wire, are much higher among all the minorities. The Black community was at 38% in August. Now they're at 46%. So that's drastically jumped up. I like to see that. But do you guys have any opinions on this before I get into more specifics? But do you have any opinions? I'm going to start off with Justin. I'll let the guys percolate on this. Justin, as the white boy who is vaccinated and part of that 54%, what's your take on this, my friend?
My take.
Yes.
The cop-out take is if you are unvaccinated, as the numbers show, you're in the minority.
You're part of the problem. Okay.
You're 43%. You're in the goddamn minority. You put yourself there. When you first started talking, I was sitting over here and I just Googled it and gave me an easy answer. So I'm not going to quote anything. I'm just going to say that I wish we would have done a study to connect our social media conversation to that question specifically, because as soon as you started talking about minorities, my mind went, I bet it has something to do with poverty. And I bet, I don't have any facts to prove it, that there are studies that show that social media and media influence is stronger amongst poverty driven areas. I think people are more, and I'm speaking of my working class and below, are more wrapped up in social media and the news and the fake news and the agendas of mass media than the people above that, because the people above that are probably feeding the machine. That's a whole nother conversation. But I do believe that people are just like, for what I've always said on Facebook, drinking the fucking Kool-Aid. I think the specific groups that we're talking about, that at least I know that I come from and live in, I am vaccinated, but that's because I've had a chance to grow and see beyond what's on the phone and what's on the TV and coming off the radio. And I got beautiful friends like you guys. And, we did a lot of great studies in school. We were studying communications that taught me all about the power of media and the platform. There's a movie that I recommend. I've probably already done this on the podcast. It's called Wag the Dog. Robert De Niro, Dustin Hoffman, go watch it. But it's all about how the media can control the nation 100%. And I feel like that, by you saying that this is more about poverty than it is about the minorities, my initial thought process is that there is a tight tie to media influence, including social media. Because we all know I am huge on the point that as of February 26, 2015, it's all the fucking same. It's all the same. If it's on the internet, it's allowed to be on the internet. If you think otherwise, try to type something you're not allowed to say on the internet. Find out something that's true from a naval base. Try to post it on Facebook. See what happens. They could call us at Right State. Their algorithms will shut you down. I promise. This is not conspiracy. I really think people are drinking the Kool-Aid. They refuse to do research for themselves. They'd rather have a politician or an influencer or it's TikToker, dancer chick tell them how they should vote or tell them what they should do with their bodies. Their favorite country singer's not getting vaccinated because it's un-American. So now they've got a Confederate flag on the back of the truck and they also aren't getting vaccinated. I'm generalizing now and I'm on a soapbox, so I will pass it on. But I feel like I fully blame the mass media.
Okay, Marvin, how about you, man? What's your take on this? Because again, I only can guess, right? For instance, I don't have a pulse on the Asian community. I'm a mixed person, and they're not inclusive. Because I'm mixed, I'm not part of the community. That's just how they are. So I can't. It's not like I can give one on them. But for you, what do you think these figures have anything to do? My guess is poverty. For obvious reasons, because historically that's what happens is the people who get the least amount of medical help always are people in poverty. And again, vaccination is medical help at the end of the day. It's not about being free. It's about the idea of going to the doctor, because a lot of the times we don't when we're poor. It's just a reality. But Marvin, please share with me your thoughts.
It's a dark situation when you look at it, because the Hispanic community, the Asian community, the Black community, people of color, unfortunately are targeted groups, for misinformation. And that is, and that's what we're living in today. And I think minorities have been more so have fallen on the they've gotten the short end of the stick, because they're not complete. They don't have the same access to, information, that I feel the majority does, especially access to, the benefits of taking the vaccination. Because, the people that I've spoken with within the community, it's either they've gotten their information from Google, they Googled it from different sites, and a lot of those different sites were, had conspiracy theorists, try to break down why they shouldn't take a vaccine. And so that one thing is just poison to any minority, any community. So I just feel as a result of that, that's what you have now is the spread of misinformation has been more deadly than the disease itself. If you ask me, because if you could, that's one thing you can do to dissuade the people is by not having them have the same access to the same information everyone else does on an equal playing field. So I mean, when you look at it, it's sad, but it's one of the many inequalities, that screams out. It's to me, it's systemic. It's systemic. It all ties together. When people don't, when you can, when you have, you perform resource control, one of those things, and then information control, that in itself is just a recipe for, disaster. People are not going to get the vaccine. So those same people, y'all, it's sad because, within our community, I've had people, say, I can't put that in my body because it's not FDA approved. And brought up some fun facts to them. And I thought that I'd bring them to the show. And you just bear with me for a second. I'm just going to read off the things that we put in our bodies that are popular items, rather, that are not FDA approved that we put in our bodies. Weed, let's start with that. Weed, something that we participate in it every day, y'all. We put weed in our bodies. That's not FDA approved. Tattoos, I'm inked up. That's not FDA approved. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. Vitamins, that's not FDA approved. Instant formula, shampoo, conditioner, and hair products, CBD oil, hair dye. For you chicks out there, hair dye is not FDA approved. Highlands baby products, amber teething necklaces, every and all weight loss supplements are not FDA approved. So just a reminder to everyone that's getting their hands on misinformation out. That's why I feel is targeting the minority is every community. Richie, is that it's more deadly than anything.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. And, again, one of the things from my perspective last year that I know hit the communities hard, because I live in the community. I may not be part of it, so to speak, but I live in it. We had a large vaccination area, the Oakland Coliseum, formerly where the Warriors played. And they were giving mass vaccinations. Well, guess what? They gave empty vaccination doses, or doses that were not vaccinations. So it was not the vaccine that were put in. So, of course, what do you think happened in this area of the neighborhood? And still to this day is extremely low. Vaccinations, that's what didn't happen. And again, that distrust, jumping the gun, doing things poorly are exactly why. And again, this community, I'm lucky. I pay nothing. And that's why I live in this community, because I pay nothing, and I'm fine with that. I'd rather do that. I love my neighbors, but that's my point is my neighbors don't have the vaccine, and I understand why they don't have the vaccine from that perspective. How can you trust somebody when they screw something up like that? And then to Marvin's point, then to see, your feed with all these false things instead of accurate things. You see a photo, it's photoshopped with statistics that aren't verified, but you just take it as fact, because a lot of the times Instagram and Facebook has stuff and you see it later on the news and you're like, that was right. So you start assuming what you see is correct. I'm going to let Tony close the show because we're running out of time, but Tony, please give me your perspective as well, sir.
Yeah. It's funny to listen to everybody, and it just brought all these different thought processes that were going through my brain. And so a lot of people are going to think, well, if it's the poverty, then it must be an educational thing, or they must be uneducated. And I'll tell you this right now. You'll hear me say this all the time. I might be ignorant to the fact, or I might be ignorant to knowing this, or whatever that is. But ignorance is something that a lot of us have, because guess what? We don't know everything, okay? So let me educate you really quick. My perspective is that there's a long history of what Richie's talking about, and that's distrust, okay? There's experiments that have been done on all kinds of minorities throughout history that deal with medical stuff, okay? You had Asians in California, you had Blacks in Georgia, all right? Multiple different experiments. I won't go in depth about it because we don't have the time. So You're telling me that you now want me to take this vaccination? You gotta be joking, right? I don't know what's in that, right? I don't even need to be educated because I already have my mind made up. It's no good for me. They're just trying to get me, right? And then you have some person that's in your ear that's telling you, hey, you know those other vaccines that they give you that's not COVID? You know, that's how you get Asperger's. You know, that's how you get all these different things, different diseases. It's from those vaccines. That's why I don't do those, right? It's because they're not doing what Justin talked about, which is you have to do a little bit of research and cited research. And what I mean by cited research is when you do that research, look at where they got their information from, okay? Because there's always a whole bunch of truths out there, right? And there's always a whole bunch of lies. So from my perspective on this, you have people that don't want to get vaccinated because they don't trust. And I said all that to agree with Richie, but I want you all to think about it. There was a movie that came out, it's called V for Vendetta, okay? And it talks about a whole bunch of stuff. It talks about the media, it talks about the government controlling stuff, and it talks about experiments that happened on people. And they wanted to kill off people because it came to population control. We don't know what's going on out there. We really don't. Or how to handle all that information, right? But for these people that we're talking about, they don't have anybody fighting for them. They don't have anybody trying to do any vaccinations for them. According to what Richie was talking about, that's eye-opening as well. So all I'm saying to you, if you're looking at me right now or if you're listening to me, go do your research. We're telling you here at the H2G Podcast, we don't have the answers, but I'm telling you, I'm vaccinated because I don't want to get you sick and I don't want to get my family sick. So, Justin, did you have something else you wanted to say really quick? No? Okay, I saw something pop up on the screen. My bad. Anyway, we appreciate you. My last word real quick, and then we'll go around real quick, is just that. I might not know you, but I do care about you. I do love you, and I'm vaccinated because I don't want to get you sick. We'll catch you next time. Thank you for my last word. Whoever wants to go next.
I'll go next. Briefly, to touch on Tony's topic, Tuskegee, syphilis, look it up. That was a prime example of what Tony was referring to. There's a reason why we, when I say minorities, don't trust the federal government and have hesitance to trust white people. Tuskegee is a perfect example of that. But as Tony said, we all want you to be safe. I want you to be safe. That's why I'm vaccinated as well.
Marvin?
Oh, yeah. No, thank you for sharing that, fellas. That means a lot. And I hope everyone out there, like Tony was saying, do your research and diligently do your research and make sure that research is very accurate. And what I mean by that is it's real easy to get misled by misinformation out there. But I hope that if what you take from this show is not us telling you what to do, but for the sake of your safety and your family's safety and your friends, the people you care about. If you care about yourself, you go get a vaccine. That's what we're saying. That's all we're saying, is that we want you to protect yourself and others.
Absolutely. Thank you for watching the H2G Podcast. Live, laugh, love like it's your last. Check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the audio platforms. Leave a comment, leave a review. We put another poll on there for you audio folks. Check out our Patreon and don't miss The Wire on Wednesdays at 8. We'll see you next week for our Halloween special.